Hi, I'm Jerry Meints.
And I'm Deborah Meints, and welcome to It's a Family Affair. And today is an exciting day because we're actually launching the book we've been talking to you about for so long, Love Tools for Everyday Heroes, is out, and our show is going to be covering one of the chapters that's in the book.
And it's a kind of a spin on one of our most popular and effective tools, and that is temperament.
That's right.
And the way we've talked about temperament in the past is a little more difficult and complicated, and we made it really fun and really easy. And because Everyday Heroes talks about, getting in your vehicle and making sure your tires are full and you're going up Marriage Mountain.
That's true. Well, that's the central image of the book.
Right.
It's that when people get married, they're going up a mountain. They're not, you see the wedding cake and you got the couple on the top and everything's great. Well, we've deconstructed that. I mean, the truth of life is that the wedding cake needs to have the couple at the bottom, and they are humbled by the journey that leads to the top. So the image we're using is to get to the top of that mountain, you're going to need a sturdy vehicle, and you got to be the right kind of driver to get to the top of that mountain.
It's true, and you need to pick the right traveling companion. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And it's about temperament, it's hard wiring, it's genetic. You were born that way. 70% of your movie is predetermined, and that's tendencies, gifts, and inner genius. And there are certain kinds of drivers that are more compatible with other kinds of drivers. So we're going to be talking about today bus drivers, those wild NASCAR drivers, and the magical mystery tour guides, and Starfleet commanders.
So 4 different types of drivers.
There it is.
And we're packaging it in a way that's fun. Now keep in mind, when we talk about temperament, it is one lens to look at yourself, your mate, your family members through. We are much more than our temperament, and yet, so having said that, it's one of the most important motivators behind the choices that you're making in your life, the kind of choices your mate's making in their life, and what people do under stress.
Cool. And what you're going to find out in this show is that in terms of compatibility choices, the people that are most unlike you are the ones you're most attracted to. And part of why we teach temperament to couples is that sometimes people get really egocentric about their way of doing it is the best way, and the very person they're most attracted to, their opposite, they start to criticize and discount their opposite way of looking at things and doing things and their opposite preferences. So we're trying to teach a way of learning about yourself and your mate so that you can have an appreciative perspective instead of thinking that there's only one way of looking at the world.
Well, and what's interesting about the attraction of opposites is that, as Carl Jung would described it, on our journey towards wholeness, becoming whole people, we're attracted to that which is not like us because, hey, we know the other stuff comes by our nature. So if we want to learn how to become whole, we're going to be learning from someone whose genius is quite opposite from ours. So in the dating stage, that's all really yummy. Being with somebody who's very athletic, or somebody who's very studious, or somebody who's very adventurous, or somebody who's very much in touch with soulful things. If that's not a dominant quality, it will be extremely attractive. The problem is, once that person, you set up housekeeping with that person or form any kind of day-to-day relationship, they're not going to change. It's not like the Pygmalion Project. They're not a sculptor, that you're going to change so much. They're going to continue to have their dominant preference, and then it just becomes downright annoying. So the important thing I can teach about temperament, and most of us who teach temperament, is based on the book Please Understand Me, which by David Kiersey and Marilyn Bates, which basically says, put down your chisel and appreciate your opposite, and it helped you stop being so angry that you got attracted to someone so different than yourself in the first place who refuses to change, and start appreciating their inner gifts.
There it is, and we need to give credit to other giants who've developed this temperament theory. Isabel Myers, the Myers-Briggs test that most of us use. And you alluded to Carl Jung earlier, and this is the Jungian theory of temperament, and yet this theory of understanding kind of human nature goes all the way back to ancient Aristotle. So here we go. And today is the Deb and Jer spin on temperament. And let's start with our first driver. And Deb, that's the bus driver.
Right. So, just get a visual. I mean, there's a bus driver is a person who, pulls up to the curb. They've got their little cap on. They're staring straight ahead because they got a mission. They're going to get your kids to school. And as a kid, you maybe tried to engage that bus driver, but they didn't get easily engaged because they had to keep their mission on being very straightforward about making sure the kids were safely delivered. Now, in terms of temperament, 40% of our population is made up of people who their hard wiring is set up like a bus driver. They take life seriously. I mean, the people who are dealing with these hurricanes right now that are getting provisions and making sure there's enough food for people and enough housing for people and are working with people in very systematic, caring ways and not, fluffing around. The people that run our organizations and institutions are largely bus driver temperaments.
Yeah, and in the real world, you'd recognize some of these folks as bus drivers, and that is 2/3 of our American presidents were bus drivers because, their mission was to kind of serve and protect, and they did. Not some of our more outrageous ones, but some of the more boring presidents. Okay, but also
Lincoln wasn't boring.
No, he wasn't. We like Lincoln, and Lincoln is one of those SJs, as is Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, Jane Pauley, Tom Hanks, Mother Teresa, Ozzie and Harriet, for those of you that can
You're really
remember David and Ricky's parents. Okay. In any case, bus drivers, yeah, they're practical, they're dependable, they're conservative, they're responsible, they believe in the value of work and service. And like Deb was talking about, they're there taking care of business because they belong to Rotary and the Optimist Club and a variety of service organizations.
They're the hubs of the wheel that support the whole system. And the thing about the key word here, if you're a bus driver, your key need is to serve and belong.
Right.
Now, you may do that if you're extroverted. You may be the president of the Rotary Club. If you're more introverted, you may be the person who is the treasurer, who is there to make sure there's enough coffee cups set up and make sure that the provisions are taken care of. But the key word here is they need to belong. And they need to, in order to belong, they need to conform, and they tend to draw on the past. Bus drivers are very concerned about how things have been done in the past, that traditions are carried on with, that they don't really like newfangled ideas,
right,
which can sometimes get in the way because the bane of the bus driver is rigidity.
So let me simplify this for a moment. Basic needs for the bus driver, 40% of the population, duty, whatever they define that to be, to belong to marriage and family, an organization, some sort of group or institution, and they want to help others. And if those basic needs are being met, life is good. Mm-hmm. The flip side, though, is when they're under stress or when their basic needs are not being met, bus drivers become depressed. In other words, they convert their emotional stress into physical symptoms. And some of those physical symptoms include no energy, insomnia. They can have hypertension. They think they're having a heart attack and it's only a panic attack. They can also get ulcers and constipation, diarrhea.
Well, it hits them in the stomach. When you talk to a lot of bus drivers, they've got a headache from all that worry. They're the most worried types. This is not to say that other types don't worry. It's just a predominant Achilles heel for them. And they're more likely to take it in the gut. That
right.
worry that just causes their stomach to churn. So there's that phrase, smiles in the front, explosions in the rear.
Okay.
The reason they tend to somatize or get ill is because they don't want to complain. They really don't. They'll kind of hint that things are, oh, yeah, I'm taking home the files again. Yes, I signed up for that committee, and I'm unappreciated. But they
can
are
be
martyrs. Thank
yeah,
you. Say
right.
that in unison.
And lastly, before we move on, I want to just name their tragic flaw.
Okay.
When their basic needs are not met, they can become overly critical and judgmental towards others.
I love your finger.
Because they have these incredibly high standards they hold themselves up to, and they think it's their duty to point out when others do not live up to those standards.
Right.
And
It's
that's
kind of
when they're
avuncular way. I mean, you
stress.
feel like you're getting scolded by a parent who's in the know because things have always been done this way, and you really disappointed us because you didn't follow this path. I mean, I remember when I was a young kid and working in an organization where I got shamed by a bus driver because I didn't know what an echo fastener was. Now, some of you know what an echo. I still don't like those things. You put them in the folders so they hold the papers in. I mean,
Hate those things.
I just think I'd rather use a paper clip. But I mean, the fact that that was standard operating procedure. That you, of course, you've gotten to be 21 years old and you've never heard of an echo fastener. I mean, it was just. I had no idea that that could be so rebellious, an act on my part.
So if you're a bus driver and you're starting to sound real critical like that, take a look at getting your basic needs met. Get back to the duty, belonging, and helping people, and you won't be so critical. Now, we're going to move on to the more outrageous and exciting driver, and that's the NASCAR driver. And these people are fun. You know, they're the folks in high school that had much more fun than we did and got in much more trouble than we did. And they're performers. They're competitive, bold, artistic, creative, and they love fun, action, risk, and pleasure.
Well, let's just get the visual again. You know, they're not choosing a bus. These people are going to go something that they're into the speed, into the drama, into the adventure of life, and they love terra firma. If they're not swimming or jumping out of an airplane or trekking across the desert, I mean, all these reality shows, they were made by NASCAR drivers.
Absolutely.
How fast can you go? How much can you push your body to the extreme in nature? We all love this kind of entertainment. It's a sense of taking a risk.
And speaking of entertainment, I want to name some NASCAR drivers because there's quite a list. Rob Lowe, Mel Gibson, Crocodile Dundee, Evel Knievel, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Sean Penn, Madonna, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Hemingway, Patton, Rommel. And so you can see, you know, they're out there leading the charge, they're entertainers,
and just everybody you're going to see on reality television.
Right.
I mean, who wants to go on TV and really, you know, just for the fun of it, to let everybody know, you know, all about their warts. I mean, there's kind of a show-off aspect to the SP or the NASCAR driver.
There's a couple of bus drivers, sergeant types that show up to kind of get the provisions and keep people in line. True. And together, these two make a great team.
The ones that are showing their butt, those are your NASCAR drivers.
There you go.
They're mooning every reality show. That's going to be your NASCAR drivers.
Let's make it really simple. When we talk about the basic needs of the NASCAR driver, it's freedom, spontaneity, because I felt like it, and autonomy. Don't tell me what to do. And if those needs are met, life is really good. On the other hand, if those needs are not met, or if they're under extreme stress, they suffer from impulse control problems. So they're going to have immoral, illegal, or destructive impulses.
NASCAR drivers, you know, if they take it out of the racetrack, they're going to get a ticket, and they're going to go to jail, and they're going to crash and burn.
There it is.
So they don't really go by the rules at all. And in the book, we talk about when we see NASCAR driver temperaments, their hard wiring, we suggest they don't get married till they're older, even though it's the most impulsive type. They can settle down and make good mates later. It's kind of when the hormones have settled down, they've burned a few bridges, sowed some wild seeds, and have children in every state. But at some point, they will calm down a little bit and really do learn that adventure is more than having affairs and
let me name a couple
running away from their relationships.
Or a few of those bacchanalian types, okay. This is a pop quiz. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Okay, who's that guy? Okay, we know it's Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Also Teddy Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Those guys are all
They can make
phenomenal.
They can make good leaders, but they can't stand to be bored.
Right.
It's the bane of the NASCAR driver is being bored, and they'll do just about anything to avoid boredom. They'll start to twitch. Their arms and legs will get to move. Their eyes will be like the eyes of a predator. They're looking for something they can leap on, and off they go.
This group is the more addictive type, who tend to get into trouble with women or drugs or alcohol or gambling or spending. There is a lunatic fringe population among,
At Venice Beach.
Venice Beach, among the NASCAR drivers, but it's people like Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Speck, Ted Bundy, Saddam Hussein, and Osama bin Laden.
Wow, you're the king of the list.
Whoa, I'll tell you, those guys, they don't get mad, they get even because they're terrorists.
That's the more introverted NASCAR
Thinking,
driver doesn't get mad, they get even.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because a lot of times when NASCAR drivers are put to a task, i.e. the hurricanes and all that, they can be the best at being heroic, going in and saving lives. They can actually get reformed this way when they're asked to do a job like to be a fire person or in rescue, search and rescue. These are the people that go and into the burning house.
Right.
And they take the risk and they save a lot of lives. They can be the emergency room physicians. They really are brave. They can be impulsive, but they are brave.
Absolutely. And they create impact.
Okay.
And their tragic flaw is they can be either self or other destructive.
Yes.
Deb, let's get to the third and really interesting type of driver.
You just have a bias here.
Well, that's because it's you, babe.
It's a married wife.
Okay, no, wait a minute. The first two temperament types, okay, the bus drivers and the NASCAR drivers are each 40% of the population. These folks are rare, and they are 10% of the population, and they are magical mystery tour guides.
So
Natural-born therapists, ministers, mystics, and teachers.
We're the weird types.
Okay.
Okay. And magical mystery tour guides, I named it that way because it's like, you know, when they're in their car, it's kind of like it's a magical mystery tour. Every day is an adventure to find yourself. So if you're a magical mystery tour guide, you are not interested in just piloting up to the top of the mountain. You're enjoying the ride for its meaning.
Yeah.
And this is your key word. It's seeking resonance with other people. That means harmony with other people, finding out their inner qualities and the best of their inner qualities and being in harmony with those. And seeking the meaning of your life.
Yeah.
The first two temperaments we talked about, the bus driver and NASCAR, are not as interested in that. What's the meaning of my life? But it's a central question for the magical mystery tour. What will I find in this mystery? What is the reason that I am here? Why am I alive? And how? And there's a sense of the magical, that there is a force beyond this immediate, sensate world that is. Through dreams, imagery, poetry, intense conversations, deep study, into the true nature of things. Now, if this sounds confusing to you and I've lost your interest, you're not a magical mystery tour guide.
Right. And so let me make it a little more simple, if you're not, and that is that they're romantics. They're idealists. They look at you and don't see you. They see you and your possibilities. And then they put you on a pedestal, and then they get a big stick out and help you rise to the occasion of your potential. Okay.
Well, maybe like a watering can.
Okay, that's a nicer way of looking at it.
But not everybody wants to have to grow.
Yeah.
So they're the growth catalyst type of temperament, and they tend to want to water people so they'll grow. Now, everything that goes up must come down. So the negative aspect of this magical mystery tour is, why aren't you having a good time on this magical mystery tour? Why aren't you growing? Why aren't you looking at that? Why aren't you telling me the meaning of your dreams? You're not as interested in growth as I am? Well, screw you and the horse you rode in on. I'm going to take that watering can and hit you over the head with it. So they're not always pleasant.
So you never quite measure up. And so you magical mystery tour guides out there, just expect about a 15 to 20% disappointment in your mate, your kids, your life, your whatever, and it's really going to be great. Now, a couple other issues.
And find meaning outside your family.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need to express yourself in many ways.
Yeah, they're empathic, sensitive, imaginative, spiritual, and they're great communicators, and that's why they're such good teachers and therapists and ministers.
And guess what? You need to find your own kind because, again, you're in the minority, you're 10%, and you'll grow up thinking you're weird because, you know, your school teacher didn't say, today we're going to discuss the meaning of life.
Right.
And so you'll find other people who've actually been obsessed with this question.
For your own kind, not your mate, or you'll marry a girlfriend, okay, if you're a girl. And that won't work unless that's your thing. Okay, here's the message, though. Basic needs for these magical mystery tour guides is authenticity. Give me the emotional room to be me. Truth. They don't make good liars. They can't. If they try to lie, it looks like this. Yes, they're going to give it away. And finally, harmony. They are like a Stradivarius, and you don't play heavy metal on a Stradivarius. They're very finely tuned instruments operating at high vibrations, and so constant criticism or conflict is damaging to their spirit. Now, on the upside of that harmony deal, they'll meet us more than halfway in an effort to create that harmony, and that's why they're such good mates in relationships. Now, when those basic needs are met, life is good. When they're under stress, or when their basic needs are not met, magical mystery tour guides become hysterical. And they can be hysterical in one or two directions. They either hysterically explode at others.
The sky is falling, the sky is falling.
Yeah, like Diane on Cheers, or Rebecca on Cheers, both of which were mad at Sam because
well, they
he
had
was
good reason.
just interested in one thing. Okay. And the introverted magical mystery tour guides tend to implode itself. So they can shut down, withdraw, get catatonic, implode. They might seem like they're depressed, but they're really hysterical. And I want to explain hysteria just briefly. It's where we disconnect from the more mature parts of the personality. We fall off the director's chair, and the less mature cast members take over. You know, the frightened child and the ogre witch take over and either turn against others or turn against themselves, and that's a painful, you know, uncomfortable time.
Okay.
There
now
it
let's
is.
make sure we have time to cover your type.
Whoa, here we go. This is the last of the 4 drivers, and this is the Starfleet Commander.
And keep in mind, we're not talking like typical cars. These are not buses. These aren't NASCAR. The Starfleet Commander is going to boldly go where no man or woman has gone before. They are the thinkers par excellence. They make up the other 10%, again in the minority of humanity. It doesn't take a lot of ink to turn the water a certain color. In the same way, when a great idea time has come, we move into greater spheres of thinking and influence. So much of the creative thinking that has led medicine, medical research, astronomy, and even the movement of political ideas has been led by the Starfleet Commander.
Right. Einstein, Eisenhower, Woody Allen, Carl Sagan, Sherlock Holmes, Spock, Janet Reno, and Condoleezza Rice are all NTs.
What a group that would make.
Yeah, boy, what a bunch. And yeah, they're abstract, they're skeptical, they're systematic, they're precise. They can be somewhat emotionally distant, but above all, they're competent.
Well, they're in their head a lot. They're thinking. They're strategic types. Their keyword is strategy, and they must have mastery and control. So when something goes wrong for an intuitive thinker, they retreat into the attic and begin to think like in an obsessive kind of way until they come to the solution, which resides within, as they rethink what happened and how could this be made better. They are the consummate think outside the box type of people. But when they're thinking, if you're a Starfleet Commander, you know what it's like if you're thinking and someone interrupts that thinking process. It's like, you know, you had all these glue and toothpicks and you made this 3-dimensional model in your mind, and somebody just came over and said, could you go fold the towels, please? And something really mundane like that, like taking care of everyday life, to a Starfleet Commander, they can actually respond with a disdain, like, did you realize what you just destroyed? I have to rebuild my thinking process, which is, it's not something you put in your hands. It's not like going river rafting. They're strategic, and it's happening in the invisible realm.
Cool. And you know, to understand these Starfleet Commanders, you know, where do you find them? They're doctors, attorneys, college professors, corporate executives, scientists, engineers.
Generals on the battlefield.
There it is. In terms of whatever they get involved in, they end up passing up other people and leading in some way or another. Now, basic needs, really important. Balance, perfection, and control. And on some levels, this means symmetry. Their talk and their walk have to match. If they don't, then they've got a one-wing plane, and one-wing planes don't fly very well. Now, if they're feeling out of control or out of balance, or talk and walk is not matching, then a Starfleet Commander, on under stress is
don't need
going
to read the notes.
experience the following problems. Why should I read the notes? I live it. They become obsessive or compulsive. They either obsess about thoughts, they get lost in the canyons of their mind, or they compulsively engage in little rituals of cleaning and organizing and straightening, so that reduces their level of stress and anxiety.
They can't control the macrocosm, they'll control the microcosm, the little world. Now, I need to say, it says 2 minutes till end, and I have to make a point here. If you're a bus driver married to a Starfleet commander, or in relationship with one, it doesn't mean that you won't get along. It just means that you got to understand that one of you is going to be the grounder. The bus driver is going to be the one who grounds you, and the Starfleet commander is going to be the one with the big ideas. If you're a magical mystery tour guide who's involved with a NASCAR driver, you can get along. Just remember, if you're the NASCAR driver, this person's endless questioning is part of their nature, and you can get an advantage if you're a magical mystery tour guide in learning how to enjoy the sensate world and be in the now as opposed to always thinking how it could be better.
And those NASCAR drivers can be Peter Pans and not stay faithful to the relationship.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes open. Lastly, I want to encourage all of our viewers, because this has been a lot of really fun information, catch our book, Everyday Heroes. It's at the bookstores. It's on Amazon.com. It's
Love Tools for Everyday Heroes.
Love Tools for Everyday Heroes. This has been cool.
It's been a family affair. We'll see you next time.